And if anyone comes in, I'll hear the little doorbell and I'll let them into the meeting. So I want to go down and hit record. So I'm about to hit record. Heads up. All right, there we go. Okay, so here we are. This is the Woodbridge Conservation Commission meeting. This is our special meeting, December 17th, 2020. Our meeting starts off with a welcome to our newest member, Tim Austin. And if you haven't met Tim, I figure now is a good time to meet him. And as whenever new people come on board, I like to just do a quick go around, name, how long you've been on the commission roughly, and what your other interests or participations have been in town in the past. So I'll go ahead and start. Jason Morrill. I've been on the commission since 2013. And other things that I've done in town, I've been involved with the Massaro Farm, the Historical Society, the Clean Energy Task Force. This is back even before 2010. And I'm a frequent trail walker. So I'm going to pass it over to Sharon for an introduction.
Hi, Tim, welcome. I am a pretty long-term resident of Woodbridge and also a field trail walker. I've been on inland wetlands. I was on inland wetlands for 15 or 20 years, and that ended about 4 or 5 years ago. I'm also very involved in the community garden and on a sort of informal governing group that sort of helps steer that community garden in the direction that works for everyone. And I'm part of the garden club. And I guess that's about it. My husband's part on the land trust.
We'll jump over to Kate.
Hi, I'm Kate Rosen. I am the other new member. I joined, oh my gosh, I think my first meeting was over the summer. So this is my third meeting. That was my child that just ran past. My focus on town stuff is also trail interest, but I'm a big bike advocate. And so when not working on Conservation Commission stuff, I help try and get the town biking stuff. So I helped the town put in a big grant for biking infrastructure and crosswalks and things. And then I like to think of other ways that we can all engage with our wonderful resources.
Thank you, Kate. All right, Tim, you're up.
Well, hello, everybody. Thank you for the welcome and for sharing. In the same vein, I'm a hiker as well, and walk the trails, and most of the trails in town I think I've walked one time or another. I think the background is most currently at the Woodbridge Park Association, where I've been serving for 4 years or so, and currently am the treasurer of that organization. So that's the jumping off point for me to be interested in wanting to join the Conservation Commission is a sort of a natural evolution of that interest and of those activities.
Right. Thank you, Tim. And as with all new members, I fully expect it'll take several meetings to sort of get up to speed with the current events, is what's going on. 2020 has really put a wrench in any big progress. We started off the year going over some objectives, and it all kind of fell apart in March. So fingers crossed that at the beginning of 2021, we can go back and review our open space plan and set out some objectives and actually make some progress on them without interruption. I hope. We'll see.
Looking forward to it.
All right. Next on the agenda is public comments, and I did not receive any public comments in advance. There are no members of the public here. I do see Pua, but I know that Pua is mostly here to listen in on the bird portion of our discussion. So I'm going to move on to the next item on the agenda tonight, and that is to review and approve the minutes of October 15th, 2020. They were attached to the email that had gone around with the other materials earlier this week. I will make a motion to approve those minutes. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right. Is there any discussion about those minutes? No discussion. All right. And just so Tim knows, even though you weren't there, Tim, you are allowed to vote in favor or against or abstain as you choose. So I will call the question. All in favor of approving the minutes?
So approved.
All right.
And just note, Jason, that I'll abstain as a matter of just as I wasn't there.
Got it.
Best course.
All right. Minutes approved. Next on the agenda is, and these are the two annual things that come up, is to review and approve our 2021 meeting schedule. And at this point in the meeting, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so that we all can look at the same content at the same time. All right, so here we are. Hopefully everybody can see this is my Excel spreadsheet of the meeting dates and times. It is quite literally every third Thursday at 7:30 p.m. in the town hall. This is mostly just a repetition of what we've done in the past. I know that for 2020, things shifted. We went to 7 o'clock and we went to online. But the town just needs something in their files that's official. And I figured let's just go with fingers crossed that maybe by June or July, we might be back in person, or even August, we'll see. So this is mostly a formality. We will likely continue doing online special meetings at 7 o'clock moving forward. So just an explanation of why our expectations of reality and what I'm putting up here are different.
Okay, I make a motion to approve. Unless,
Okay. I will second that.
I'll second.
Oh, Tim. Sure, Tim, go ahead.
I was gonna second it, but
Any discussion?
you'll just inform us if they turn out to be special meetings at 7.
Correct. Yep.
Would it make any sense to put a little caveat at the bottom? If we're not in person, there'll be 7 o'clock meetings.
Nah, I think we'll just go with the standard, and
Okay,
we've got I think good communication via email, notifying everybody of when the meeting is coming up and that it's time and location. So
okay.
I think we've worked out pretty well so far that. All right, all in favor of the 2021 meeting dates?
Aye.
Aye. All right, approved. The next item is our budget, and this comes up every year. We need to have it submitted by early January, but it's not until generally late February or even early March that the Finance Commission goes through and reviews it. So even though if we submit something early January, there's still an opportunity to tweak and adjust it for the first roughly month and a half of 2021.
Well, so can we speak to this at this point?
Yes.
Because I, as you remember from last year, thought that it would be good to put some extra funding in there for a project that we might want to do that would be more hands on the ground kind of visible thing.
Yes.
I still would like to do that. I know in these COVID times it gets extremely tricky to do those things, but I'm wondering if there's any willingness or interest to put in programs and publicity and make it $1,000 instead of $400 and see where it goes.
I think that's fair. I'm just going to highlight the column that we're talking about. So this is the one that we're talking about.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I know Kate and I have had some side discussion about a project that she's interested in getting off the ground, and it's not on the agenda because I wasn't quite sure if it was ready, but we are going to talk about it in the chairman's updates. So it does impact this budget in some way. So I think there is some interest in definitely keeping some other items in here, programs and publicity, maybe increasing that number. Other comments right now?
Well, question for Sharon. Sharon, were there specifics around the programs that you had?
Well, we never really
Or
got to
entertaining?
discussing, but it could be anything from like planting bulbs to getting a lecturer. I mean, this is when we're in person on, local, you know, birds and bird habitats. I mean, it could be anything. It could be, trying more support for bringing awareness to the Fitzgerald property and how it would benefit us if it wasn't continued to be developed. I mean, I think it should be kind of either increasing awareness or beautification. I'd like it to be something where we just have a little bit more visibility in the community, so people go, oh, that's the Conservation Commission, they're doing this.
Yep.
And I'd like to not make it too labor intensive or difficult, but something that, and I talked to Tony Genovese, and he seemed to be very interested, willing to allow some money in the budget for that, at least last year. And we just never really proposed it adequately enough to substantiate anything.
Yep. And that's one of the things that, sorry, Tim, just give this thought out. That's one of the things that I feel like I probably should have advanced further back in August and September and October, that we would develop programs for 2021, so we would have a budget to put into this budget. So I'll take some responsibility for not getting our house in order properly.
But it was an unusual time, and I think that, I think it doesn't hurt to put in some money for a budget, and even if we just create a paragraph or two around some ideas of ours, I think Tony Genovese, if we don't use it, and the town gets to keep it. I mean, we'll be frivolous about it. If we do the program, great, and if we don't, then we don't spend that money and the town keeps it.
Yeah. Tim, I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
Well, it was a question, comment. Is it worthwhile to put in that specificity around the types of programs that would give a more likelihood that it would resonate with the people who are reviewing this? Give them, I guess the question could be phrased another way. The people who review it, do they look at things that are just chunks of money without many specifics? Do they look less favorable on that than where you have an obvious need? Like a better example I could give for the dues is, if you had mentioned the organization that we're paying dues to, does that help our cause? Right.
So the background on that is, what will happen is that I'll have an opportunity to go before the Board of Finance and explain what these proposed figures actually represent. So sort of to explain the case as you indicate. I think on the line item budget that's put out, in the past, I haven't been asked for supplemental documentation for it, because I think the people that are reviewing it don't take the time to actually, if I were to submit a document to go with it, I would be surprised if they spent the time to read it. They usually wait for a presentation to come before.
Yeah, I wasn't actually suggesting a supplemental document at this point, but just within the narrative.
Okay.
I would definitely.
Because I imagine they do look at this. Excuse me.
Yep, at a high level. Go ahead, Kate.
I would support adding more money as well. I think that gives us some room. I mean, you and I have been working kind of on this other idea, but then if we can do something like that, and then, yeah, I just, let's try and do more this year.
I think everybody's ready to do more in 2021 than 2020. So I just bumped it up to 1,500. It seems like a reasonable ask. Our prior asks have been rather large in the general professional services, but maybe if we stick with some programs and events, which I think might fall under programs, I think that's the comfort level that I'm getting feedback from here with this group, is that we want to do something visible, public, that involves people in some way safely. So I think public programs and publicity is way to squeeze that in.
Agree.
Jason, is there a specific open space organization that we'd like to have a membership for?
So we do have a couple, and I'll need to double check to make sure we're on currently up to date on the dues. The Connecticut Land Conservation Council.
Akiwak?
And then there's Kakiwik as well. There's the CLCC, and then there's Kakiwik, which is the Connecticut Association of Inland Wetlands and Conservation Commissions. That's a mouthful. I feel like there was also the Connecticut Farmland Trust was one that we had prior been a member of. So there are a handful that historically we've been members of and supported, and it allows us to go to their events with a discounted rate.
Yeah. Again, I would suggest you just list them if we belong, especially if we belong to them now, so that people who are reviewing this can see that it's relevant to what we do.
Okay.
Important, and then you can talk to it. Not everybody reads, but some people do.
People, especially if it's a short, if it's really short, like you said, in that narrative column.
Yeah. No, I don't want to add a book to this, but just to say, they've thought about it, they've thought ahead about it. This is what they want to do. It's for beautification, the money, and somebody might disagree with that, but at least it's not just a pot of money.
Other thoughts around the budget?
Parties? No, just kidding. No, I think that's good. I think it's a step in the right direction. If we utilize it well, who knows, we might have more ideas for another year, but I think this is a good beginning.
All right. So to make it formal, we do need to vote. But as I said, we still, even though we'll submit this, we do have an opportunity to revisit it at a future meeting. But just to make sure we're in a timely fashion with the town, I will make a motion. I'm going to make a motion to. Oh, go ahead, Sharon.
Before you do that, it's more than we have the opportunity. I think we need to do it if we hope to get that money, because we need to pitch. We need to pitch it, right? Yep. And so we need to make sure that we actually revisit this and flush it out before then. But
absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. Yep. Okay.
But for tonight, I'm going to make a motion to approve the proposed budget as we see it on the screen with a total of $2,000. Is there a second?
Yep, I'll second that.
All right. Any further discussion?
No.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Very good. All right. Next on our agenda tonight is to talk about the proposal that Sharon and I had a chance to talk with Dennis Riordan from the Monunketuk Audubon Society. He was scheduled to present to us in our November meeting. We did not have a quorum, but since we were on a video call, Sharon and I figured it was an opportunity to kind of pick his brain and flesh out some more detailed ideas around what could be done in Woodbridge. This sort of came about, did I put it at the end of this document? I don't think I did. There is a Boy Scout project to place 20 nesting boxes in the town of Woodbridge. Apparently they've already got the posts cut and ready. And the question came up of, well, where do we put them? And that led into, well, what do they look like? And how many can be placed in a certain area? And Dennis had gone into a great detail on that. Out of that conversation, I wrote up the summary. I sent it back to Dennis to make sure this sort of captured what we had discussed, and he agreed that this did accurately reflect our discussion. And we stuck with town properties specifically. We can't go ahead and start putting birdhouses on private properties or land trust properties for that matter, or Parks Association properties. it would be great too to do that. Maybe they would like to join in on us, but our focus was on town properties. So hope everybody had a chance to read through the content here. I'm gonna start off just by opening it up for discussion at this point. I know, Sharon, you've had some discussions with members of the public. You want to sort of lead off a little bit?
Sure. So I was part of this discussion and enthusiastic about the idea of supporting the bird population, and sort of spoke to some people about this. And I often walk on the Fitzgerald property, and people I walk with were, I'd say, almost all not happy with the idea of any more physical intrusion. I think the issue that we learned about is that these birdhouses are not going to be tucked away, because the birds have to have an ability to fly into them kind of in an open space. I don't know if we have a picture of the birdhouses, but they're not as subtle as we might want them to be.
Yeah.
Jason had the idea of painting the PVC pipe, and he sent a video to the gentleman who gave us is proposing this, and that might make it somewhat more subtle, but I think visually it would be they'd be very noticeable. And I think from what I'm thinking is that even when I was speaking to people, trying to encourage them to like the idea of a couple educationally, like there's a couple dots right near where the dog park is now. I don't know if people can see that. And I personally think that might be okay educationally, but I think a lot of people go to that field for the vista. And also I was thinking about Keith Arnold, who mows that and uses it for haying. And I think this could be a little tricky, especially the backfield for him and that purpose. So I am enthusiastic about the idea that we have residences for birds, and I seems to be quite a few people are not enthusiastic about having it in a place which we're trying to decrease the amount of human footprint. Even though it's helping birds, the birdhouses look like a pretty significant human footprint. So and there's other places where they could be where I think they would where they would maybe be less, like near the Darling House or the Fitz, where people don't come specifically to just have a feeling of open space and unencumbered, as much as they're trying to at Fitzgerald, even though it's getting harder and harder to do. So that's sort of where I've come out with it over the past month, after kind of being excited about the idea and then not being so excited about the experience of having them in that space.
All right. So I did bring up, this is the photo of what they look like. It is, I think it's a 3-inch white PVC pipe with, I think it's a plastic baffle here to keep out, not as you might think, squirrels, but actually other pests.
Raccoons and snakes.
Yes. So this is the recommended style that the Mononkatuk Audubon Society recommends and installs. I believe the scouts have already cut the PVC pipes to the proper length for installation. And my feeling is that it is definitely a non-subtle birdhouse. Some people think of a birdhouse as just a single metal stake and a house on the top, and it sort of weathers and it fades into the background. These certainly would weather, except for the white pipe. That would,
and the baffle.
Yeah, and that baffle might stand out.
And I think the baffle makes it kind of a bigger object.
And I had looked online to see about painting PVC pipes to look like trees. And there's all kinds of creative ways to do it. Personally, I have also painted PVC pipe and it's held up very well. So I think there is a way that you could paint it to make it less visually jarring, but still the size of it is certainly a visual distraction. So on Fitzgerald, yeah, there was the lower field here. This is down behind the community gardens, sort of along the edge of the field in a way. Dennis did say that you can't put them under a tree line. They need to be out and away from a tree line. So they can't be tucked in. I think he had said, Sharon, connect me if I'm wrong. He said about 20 feet from a tree line.
Yeah, I think that's right.
So visually, I mean, this might be an exaggeration of what it might be. But there is that point that if you've got trees around, you need to be away from the trees for the swallows to nest in the boxes.
Well, let's show them some of the other places that are less people, where people travel, that might be places where we can put more of them rather than the Fitzgerald property.
Yep. So over at Pease Park, off of Center Road and Pease Road, there was, let me zoom out a little bit here. Oops. I'll back it out a little bit more just so we have an idea of where things are in relation to the parking and the recreational field there. So these fields here are, I don't know if they're actively hayed. In the past, they had been. I don't know if the current residents at that farmhouse are planning on anything with these fields, but we would definitely want to have discussions with them.
Right.
So this was another opportunity to put houses on town-owned land.
But Jason, is there a way to put it further down, right? Go beyond where the traffic circle is. It seems like you could put one or two more down. No, yeah, down and to your right.
Yeah, over this area?
Yeah.
I am not, honestly, I will admit, I have not been to the Pease playground or ball field areas in many years.
I've been there. I think that's still somewhat open.
And Kate's nodding her head. So yeah, there could be opportunities over here as well. And Dennis did say that you can pack the houses reasonably close together. Not like 5 feet away from each other, but they don't need to be hundreds and hundreds of feet away
Didn't
from
they
each
say
other.
100? I think he said 100 feet.
Yeah, but it wasn't like 400 feet away.
Yeah, and there could be another one right up above, like right there, right? Yeah, where you are, like well, not on the other side of those trees near the parking lot.
Oh, down in here.
Yeah. So I'm just thinking of ways to put them in places where people wouldn't really care about them very much.
They could, in this area, since people don't walk in these spots so much, they could sit in the background a bit, yet still be visible.
Yeah, and that's not really a space that people think of for aesthetics as much as the Fitzgerald place.
Okay. Tim or Kate, you got any thoughts?
I'm okay with skipping them at Fitzgerald. I think kind of everyone's processing all sorts of feelings this year, and then with this new zoning thing. So if people feel like that's an area where they want to walk and, you know, the dog park is plenty, and then it seems like if we're up to 20 of them, right?
Yep.
Okay. So, I mean, you've got quite a lot on this property, and then it looked like Massaro Farm could accommodate, what, about 6?
Oh yeah, so let me.
And it's Farmer Steve okay with this?
I haven't yet approached the farm or their board of directors or even Farmer Steve about it. I do know that bluebird houses were placed on the farm years ago, and those were welcome additions. I personally, and knowing Farmer Steve, I can't imagine he would have strong objections to it. I think his biggest concern would be, will it impact his ability to conduct his farming?
Yeah.
And the birdhouses do need to be checked periodically throughout the year, so someone would need to have access to the houses where they are. But as long as there's an agreement and an understanding in place, I think the board of Massaro Farm would be open to it.
How come Woodbridge Country Club property is that one that they didn't look at, or?
That is a huge question mark, I think, on everybody's radar. There's plenty of opportunity to put
We
things
could
back.
put all 20 there.
Oh yeah, easily.
That's not a bad idea, because it's not like if in 3 years they need to move, it's such a terrible thing. I mean, it's not like a huge permanent structure.
And no one's mowing there.
Right.
Right.
Or, like for hay, like people, there's some mowing,
So I
but
think that's a good option.
Tim, do you have any thoughts so far?
No, I agree. If people are feeling that Fitzgerald's been overdeveloped, then you should probably try to stay away from that and respect that. But I don't have good background here, and why, what our objective is in this, or were we just approached on it? So I'm sort of sitting back a little bit.
And then the last one in this document was the Darling House fields. So if I scroll down, the Darling House is at the bottom of this drawing. And then there's the little gardens that were in place, but I'm pretty sure those are now defunct. And this is near the parking for the trail access. And then across the street, there is a Boy Scout camp, and there's a stream that runs along the wood/field line. And I had just sort of dotted them in here, all in a long row. This is actively hayed. It might be Keith Arnold. I don't remember who has the current hay permissions on it. And likewise, in this northern field here, could dot in a few more. We talked about this other lower field. For those that know the Darling property and the trail actually winds through the woods and then cuts through the south portion of this open field. Because this field is sort of in a little hollow, a low spot along the West River, and the trees are so close on either side, you'd have to put the birdhouses out in the middle of the field. And if this was not actively hayed, that might be a good thing, but I can imagine that it suddenly just becomes an obstruction for the farmer that would like to continue haying this. And especially since we've just talked about, well, why don't we flip over to the country club as a potential place? I mean, there's, as we all agree, there is ample opportunity around the country club. I was going to actually bring it up on the map here, as long as I can get over to it. Woodfield Road, Johnson Road. You think I wouldn't even live in this town? Why am I not finding the country club on Google Maps? There it is. Okay. Drag this over. Oh. All right. So, yeah. And obviously this was taken probably last year. You can see the stripes when there was one haying done on it. I think the first year that it was left vacant, but I'm pretty sure this year nothing happened on it for haying purposes.
No, nothing. It didn't look like it. I don't know how. I don't know from the man who came and talked to us how much there's enough really open space here in terms of even some tree cover, but it seems like to your right.
Over here?
Yeah, there'd be room.
Yep. And I was also thinking, even on this eastern side, western side, where the pond is, I can visualize this area very well, and it's wide open.
Yeah.
And there is no walking that happens along this line.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
It's kind of it's a little marshy when it gets really wet. I don't know if that's an issue for tree swallows, but and I do know people that love birding come to the country club to check out birds. So we could have a whole tree swallow lane going on here.
Jason, what's the next step with this? Proposing it back to the first selectman?
Yes, I think the next step on this would be proposing sites that are suitable. And I could certainly kind of place out a couple dots and maybe even loop back around with Dennis. I could connect with him and throw out the idea of the country club and throw up a map and some visuals for him with some distances to see what his feeling is about placement on the country club.
And do you feel like we should definitely commit to 20 or commit to 10 and see how it goes and how people respond? It's sort of an arbitrary number, but it's quite a few.
It is quite a few. I think it was chosen because that's what the Boy Scout project was going to do.
But I don't know that that should be our directive.
I don't know. My feeling is that if someone wants to install 20, I'm okay with that.
If we can find good places for them.
Yeah.
Who's going to be in charge of checking the boxes 3 times a year or so?
That is the $1 million question. I don't know the answer to it.
I got the feeling that the gentleman who's putting them up would be committed to that, or his group would be committed to doing that.
His group, or maybe they might be able to designate some members of the community. I think Monunketuk is centralized in the, I want to say the Madison area of Connecticut, but they certainly go out across the state. Maybe they would sort of nominate members of the New Haven Birding Club to be responsible for some of the houses, or some very, very motivated people that love birds. that could be an opportunity too. So I think coming out of this, the discussion is we're going to, remove Fitzgerald Tract from the discussion. There's plenty of other locations in town with opportunities. Other ones that I didn't draw up here was the Eldersley and the transfer station.
Well, the transfer station I think is a really good one because no one goes up there and it's open field.
Yeah, I'll bring it up here as long as I can find it. There's Massaro Farm down there. As I scroll, I'll get there. Zoom out. There we go. So this is a big pile of trash. That's what this is. It's the old landfill. And for those that have been to the transfer station, it looks just like a grassy hill with nothing on it. If it's like other old waste piles, there's probably some pipes in there for venting purposes as the materials decompose over the years, but definitely loads of places to put in birdhouses over here. And over here on this side of the hill, that would be a high visibility for the public. And there's an opportunity to put up maybe a sign as people leave the transfer station, they could see some sign that explains.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea because it can't be anything else. It's not someplace people are going to wander around.
Yep.
Just a question: is the public prohibited from the walking on top of the old landfill?
I don't know. There's the ball field. If you follow the road up here, it goes to the ball field.
Right.
I can't remember what, if any, fencing there is to keep people from walking on it. Anybody have ideas? No.
I hope there's no signals if you do.
Yeah.
I've never seen anyone show any interest in it, like.
No. No. The other, and Jason, where did the idea of you placing the feeders of the transfer station come from? Was that something that we generated, you generated?
It came out of the discussion that Sharon and I had with Dennis last month. We were just sort of batting around ideas of where in town is there open space or open fields that doesn't get a lot of foot traffic and can be reasonably accessed without wandering miles into the woods to find an open field.
Right. Yeah, and this certainly fits the bill of not foot traffic, but these are usually capped in a very special way, so we have to really have some exploration if you can even dig a post into the ground. Yeah,
these posts are 3 feet down.
Now you have no idea, where they do the cap. There's material besides dirt.
Got it. Makes sense.
Okay.
And then there was the idea of Eldersley, and that was a rough idea, mostly because it was these fields here. And when I drove by, I believe this property is under development right now. I drove by and there's definitely, all of these trees are gone. And there's at least one, if not two foundations put in here. So.
Isn't there a trail that goes up through there?
Sort of, yeah. If I bring up the town GIS, we can take a quick look at who owns those. And we'll throw on the aerial map. There we go. Yeah, so these are lots, judging by the name of the owner, it's going to be developed. Triple R developers. But yeah, I know there is a trail. I want to say
it's on the other side of the road, isn't it?
Well, there's the parking up here, and I know there's a trail that kind of snakes out into this field. But then there's another one that comes through the woods, and I feel like it cuts through here down to the road, or maybe.
Jason, that's my recollection. I walked that a year or so ago, and you walk through the fields, and then you if you're paralleling Peck Hill, then you take a left and go up. I thought through that that other bigger open field by your cursor, and back, and then you join up. Not sure precisely where it goes, but I'm wondering if we're losing that trail.
Yeah, I don't know. So anyway, the Elderslie Preserve was proposed, but it was a little more tricky, mostly for access. For those that need to come and check on the birdhouses, you're going to be parking up here. And on a nice day, it's great to go for a walk and check on the houses if you want to walk through the woods to check on some houses in the field. But given the number of other opportunities in town for locations.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. So your plan is to go back to Dennis and sort of give him an update, and then we'll make a proposal to the town and then see how they like it.
That's the direction I'd like to go. Any other thoughts?
Well, just to reiterate, I guess I would be interested in an answer back to the question I was asked about who's going to maintain these. I think that needs to be a solid answer. If there was that Audubon Society covers Woodbridge, if they have members in town and they will make a commitment that those members will do the checking, maybe that's a different ball of wax than just saying the town has some responsibility for it.
Yeah, but so for my stance, I do not want the town responsible for maintaining them at all.
Right. I understand.
and to go further, I would love to have a written, at least a memorandum of understanding of who's responsible, so that in another 2 years, if there's a problem with the houses, we can go back to this written document that it clearly explains who's responsible for them and for how long.
I think that makes sense too.
Because the biggest issue that I've run into in the past is change of, let's call it personnel in a certain role, and assumptions made by people that are no longer here. And that's where things get really messy. So having everything clearly laid out alleviates all of that misunderstanding and smooths things over so much better. So I'm with you.
Jason, just for my background quickly, were we approached by the Boy Scouts or by the Audubon Society? How
it was the Scouts.
Scouts approached us.
Yep.
And so do we need to talk to the Scouts about the idea that we're switching from the Fitzgerald predominantly to other town properties to make sure that
I don't think so. I think they had kind of come to us and asked about, this was the original proposal that we were going to talk about. and all of these green pins sort of circumnavigate the Fitzgerald property. So we'll move past that.
Yeah. So
Yeah, so this was the original email that really kicked off our discussion in November 2020 here. She said that they had come to us in the past, and I'm not clearly remembering it, but I'm definitely in favor of it. So this was the,
I mean,
yeah, this was the resident that had the scouts involved. So
you know, maybe that as an alternative to the Audubon Society, maybe the Troop 63 wants to take this on as a continuing commitment to check them.
Yep.
As a scout activity. You know, somebody's ongoing merit badge project as they have troops, scouts come through the project. John McGonigal is one of the, I'll just say one of the leaders. I can't remember the terminology that they use, but
Scoutmaster or something.
Scout. Well, he's not a scoutmaster. There's a different role, but I know he's involved with that troop. So I think since we've learned, apparently not from the scouts, but from Dennis Reardon, that they have to be visited, we want to make sure that the scouts are aware of that as well, and that needs a solution.
All right. So I will follow up with Dennis, and I'll also send around to everybody a summary of what we talked about with terms of locations. And are we, I don't know, I feel like we're not quite ready to make a written recommendation to the town.
Right.
Is that,
Yeah.
so okay. So at our January meeting, I think we can probably wrap this up. I'll get clarity on any questions that we've raised in tonight's meeting. Sound good? All right. And the last item is the chairman's report. And I don't have a whole lot to bring up, thankfully. There's nothing contentious in town. Well, there's lots of contentious things, but nothing contentious around conservation going on right now. I have not heard anything new about movement with the cell tower proposal that's been put forward that we had talked about in October. But Kate had something, and I wanted to bring this up, Kate. So I've got your write-up here. So Kate had an idea, and this goes back to the idea of getting the town involved and active and outdoors in some way. And she was good enough to do a little proposal here. And Kate, I'm going to turn it over to you to go through.
So I don't know if anyone in this group is familiar, but the Connecticut DEP runs a program called The Sky's the Limit. And so at the end of the year, they do a hiking challenge. And if you hike a set number of their blue trails in the state of Connecticut and state parks, you can then send in your proof of your hike, which is, oh, hold on one second. Guys, can you be a little quieter? You can get, you get a special badge and a certificate from Connecticut Deep. And so I was thinking about this and how active all of our trails were this year with people being hiking from COVID and how we kind of keep that momentum going. And I thought it would be nice if maybe we adapted that for Woodbridge. I had spent time with Andy, our trail master, doing a trail cleanup. And so I was like, oh my gosh, we need more of this. So what I did was I put together just kind of a pretty basic proposal here. We have 35 miles of trail in town. And so what I thought is if we could kind of add, create a point system, just because I don't want to make it exclusive to people who can only hike 35 miles. That's a lot. And so, and it would also kind of maybe, as Sharon said, having programming and getting people engaged and getting our name out there as a commission, allowing people to pick up points by doing other activities related to the trails in town and conservation efforts. So that was pretty much it. And then I thought, I was playing around. I like calling our town and us the Woody Bridgers. So that's what I had called it, the Woody Bridger badge. And so I made like a little, and this is this was just me playing around, and I'm totally open to feedback. But I thought maybe instead of a badge, because those were kind of hard to find to get printed online, a little pin. And if it was something that was popular and we got a lot of people who collected enough points to get one of these, we could do it again another year. And then what I liked was, if we did do this, I like the idea of us mentioning the people who qualify for it at our meetings. So part of our new business or the old business for the meetings maybe would be, so-and-so hit their point level, and we mention them during our meeting, and then we can get them their certificate and badge and thank them for using our wonderful resources. And then I found a place that makes the pins, and I didn't, for year one, I don't know how many people would want to do it. So you get a decent discount if you get 65 of the little pins, and, it's not too much to print out a nice little certificate on a thicker weight paper. And that was kind of it. So I'm open to feedback.
I like the idea. My brain goes all kinds of fantastic ways of setting up a dedicated website and people can register, and you have a leaderboard, and I got to slow it down and bring it back to something more realistic.
That's a neat idea, Kate.
I think it's a nice idea. How would you find out who's done what hike? So how do you
I looked at the system that Connecticut Deep uses, and what they did was they have everyone put it together in one submission, and then they do a nice thing where they have you write like 50 words or less about like why you chose that as a hike. I think for us, if we were trying to have it be not just inclusive to hiking, but attending a trail cleanup, attending a speaker event, they could add those. But if we were doing a leaderboard, then they could kind of add it in themselves.
Well, no, I was taking it to places it probably shouldn't go.
Yeah, no, but after the initial. Yeah, I mean, we can. I don't think they'll mind if we kind of take the great things that they're doing. I mean, we all have the same goal of getting people outside into open space. So
yeah.
I kind of was, if people are interested in this, I can certainly flesh out more parts of it. But before I also got too excited and into it, I wanted to get the temperature of the group.
I think it's a good idea. I mean, why not? To get people. I think it would be worth maybe even just, I mean, I'd like to think about it, and I don't feel like I have enough brainwidth to really assimilate it and think about it right now, but I think the idea is great. Personally, I just I don't know how you keep the points and how you did, or how do you assign them, but I think, in another meeting we could kind of make that a project to at least get a tentative idea.
Cool. I'll send this document around to everybody.
So just a clarifying question, Kate. So Kate, you think that people would earn pins in successive years?
Yeah, I like that idea of having like the annual Woody Bridger pin, and then maybe getting like, if we have someone who's a nice designer in town, if we can get kind of the artist, like it would be nice to kind of have it be more an organic thing from the town. But yeah. I would like the idea of like people having an annual commitment to working and walking our trails.
I'm all for it as well.
If I was just very quickly, without having a lot of time to really think through the comment, I think if I was Andy Danzig, who has a challenge with getting some trail cleanup done, he might want to find a way to make sure that part of the part of earning the pin was participating in a cleanup.
Yep.
So that
I
And
included
that's my only comment. So I let Andy speak for himself, I guess.
I included that in one of the ways that you can earn points beyond just hiking.
Right.
Because I agree.
Right.
I went and he had a good turnout for this most recent one. And even with that many people, I don't think we even really put a huge dent into clearing back the invasives. So the more people, the better.
And tomorrow morning, Tim and I are involved in a specific trails meeting with the town. Are you okay with me bringing this up? At least just as something that is being discussed and developed?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't want to do anything unless Andy said it was okay, since this is kind of his thing, but yeah.
Okay. Because it does, that trails meeting that we have, it does involve members of the Parks Association and the Land Trust as well.
Oh, cool.
So
yeah.
I'm pretty sure we could get buy-in from those organizations for something like this.
Oh, I think so.
Good. Nice job, Kate.
Yeah, like it.
That should be fun.
All right. And that ends my chairman's report.
I move to close the meeting.
I'll second that. All in favor? Aye. All right, everybody. Well, have a great holiday and stay safe out there. Don't hurt your back shoveling, as the snow might harden up overnight. All right.
All right. Thank you.
Good night.